Hello, my name is Beth Dixon, and this is a video series based on Vicki Borlaug's PowerPoint presentation on population mean, variance, and standard deviation. I wish to thank Mrs. Borlaug for allowing me to use her PowerPoint to make this set of videos. And as always, let's start with an example. A shop sells ice cream cones. It costs $2.50 for a plain cone, $3 for a cone with sprinkles, and $3.50 for a chocolate-dipped cone. 50% of the customers order plain cones, 10% order cones with sprinkles, and 40% order chocolate-chipped dip cones. Find the mean, variance, and standard deviation for the price of ice cream cones. In this example, we will need to build our own probability distribution, and we will do so by using a table. Our first column will be our data values, and the second column will be the corresponding probabilities. To begin with, we will need to reread the problem paying attention to the details. The first piece of important detail that I see is the sentence here. This seems to tell me that the choices or different data values or numerical values that I have are that it costs $2.50 for a plain cone, $3 for a cone with sprinkles, and $3.50 for a chocolate-dipped cone. And since we're trying to find the mean, variance, and standard deviation for the price of the cones, we will let X, or our data value, be the numerical choices for the price. We will put those in our chart. If you like, we could also add a note to the chart indicating what those values represent: the plain cone, the cone with sprinkles, and the chocolate dipped cone. The next sentence contains our probabilities, and we can place those into our tables next to their corresponding data values. 50% of the customers order plain cones, 10% order cones with sprinkles, 40% order chocolate dipped cones. The problem asks us to find the mean, variance, and standard deviation. Population mean equals the sum of x times p of x. The population variance equals sigma squared equals the sum of x minus the mean squared times p of x. And for the population standard deviation, that will be the square root of sigma squared, or the population variance. We always start with the mean. Let the formula lead you to your steps. The formula tells us to first multiply x times p of x. That will be our third column. We multiply each x times the p of x values and place the answers into that column. We could also use a calculator to fill this in, and I do have a video on how to use a calculator for such steps, but in this video I'm concentrating again on the steps and the process. So we now have the first step in finding the mean completed, where we have multiplied x times p of x. It is time for the second step, which is to sum up those values. So we will add 1.25 plus 0.3 plus 1.4 And when we sum up those values, we will get 2.95. This then is the mean of 2.95. Is this answer reasonable? Well, we're talking about money, so this means that the population mean price of an ice cream sold at this store is $2.95. Is this a good answer for the mean price of ice cream cones, where 50% of the cones cost $2.50? Yes, because the other 50% of the cones cost either $3 or $3.50. So this is a reasonable answer. We have found the mean, and now we want to move back to the next part of the question, which is to find the variance. The variance is found by using our 4 steps. And again, we will let the formula lead us. Have I said that before? I think I may have mentioned that once or twice. Start with the expression inside the parentheses, x minus mu, or x minus the mean, or the data values minus the mean. We will put this expression in the next column, or the 4th column. That means for this column we will take each x value and subtract the mean of 2.95. The second step in finding the mean will be to square each of the differences, and we will place each square of that in the 5th column, and we can write that by writing open parentheses x minus mu close parentheses squared, and we will square each number in the 4th column here. The third step will be to multiply each squared value by p of x, and we will place that in our last or 6th column. This column we will label as the parentheses x minus mu close parentheses squared times p of x. Here we will take each number in the previous column, the squared values, and multiply that by the probabilities found in column 2. Now to do the actual calculations and back to the 4th column, the first step in finding the variance, x minus the mean, or x minus mu. X minus mu, and we'll simply take $2.50 minus $2.95, $3 minus $2.95, and $3.50 minus $2.95. And that gives us the 4th column. The next column is to square each of those values, and by the magic of the PowerPoint we now have those numbers squared, and each of those numbers gets multiplied by the 2nd column, which is our probability, and that fills in our last column. We will then sum up those numbers for our 4th step. The sum of those numbers is 0.2225, and that is our variance. So our variance is 0.2225. Now we can answer the final question in this example, which is to find the standard deviation. We do this by taking the square root of the variance, the square root of 0.225, and this gives us 0.4717. Please follow your teacher's guidelines when rounding. This completes the questions, as we have found the mean of $2.95 and the variance of 0.225 and the standard deviation of 0.4717. We can check the mean and standard deviation on the TI-84 calculator as well. And we have that same example and set up our answers that we have just obtained, and we will put the X or data values into list 1 and the probabilities into list 2. Remember to type your data in. You will press Stat and then choose Edit under the Edit menu, and then you will type in your numbers again into list 1 and list 2. Next, we will want to do one variable statistics. To do this, you will press Stat, use your arrow key to move over to Calculate or Calc, C-A-L-C. Under the Calc menu, you will choose one var stats. We need to tell the calculator that we have data in both list 1 and list 2. We do that by typing in list 1, then a comma, which is above the 7 key on the calculator, and then list 2. Remember that list 1 and list 2 are above the 1 and 2 keys respectively. List 1 shows the location of the X value. List 2 shows the location of the probabilities. L2 is required, or the calculator will assume the X values are equally likely, which is not true. Here are our solutions. After you press enter, you'll get your solutions, and that will give us the answers that we just need to check. The X bar, or the mean, is 2.95. Remember, our calculator will give us a notation error here. X bar should really be mu because the data is from a population and not a sample. But that checks out number-wise. The standard deviation is 0.471699, and that does match our standard deviation. And if the standard deviation matches, we know that we've got the variance correct. Here is some exercises for you to try. This concludes this PowerPoint and the video based on it. If you need help and are a Walter State student, please come by the Math Lab in MBS 222. Thank you.